Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
How was football not taken off during COVID?
You haven't won a trophy. You've won promotion.
I've seen him twice, Timmy Mallet. He opened up the Millgate shopping centre.
Oh, really? This isn't a podcast. Think you'll find. This is a business meeting.
You leave Ryan Reynolds alone. He's been through a lot this season.
Can't wait for them to have to act that out on the charades round of A Question of Sport.
Half-time bullseye, why not?
Or could you win a speedboat? Forgot Les Parry took charge.
I've got a pair of his shorts upstairs somewhere.
Hello and welcome to a Tell Me a Game podcast. We are joined down by Sussex by the Sea with Joe from Albion Obsessed. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, all good, mate, all good. Been a great start to the season for us, so I'm happy at the moment. Depends what happens this weekend, obviously. But yeah, all good, mate. How are you guys?
I'm not too bad, apart from Rochdale are absolutely awful at the minute. 4 games in and we've lost 4. It can only get better. That was a song, wasn't it?
Can it though?
Yeah.
Can it? You've seen Oldham. Can it?
Don't know.
We are not bad. Dak and I obviously went to watch Tranmere the other day, and they actually won a game, so that was quite nice. But obviously, unfortunately, with Everton, well, you say unfortunately, depends on your viewpoint. We are basically carrying on from last season. Not a big shock with the result. I watched the first half before going the Rovers game, and well, it was awful. But yeah, otherwise, all good here, absolutely. Matt, you've been travelling length and breadth of the country this week. How are you getting on?
What day is it? It's Wednesday, isn't it? Is it Wednesday today? I've lost track of the days. Yeah, it's good. I've been via Reading and different places. I don't even know where I've been. Football has been the one thing I've at least been able to keep an eye on. Everton, I agree, were awful for 85 minutes. And then very good for 10 minutes, but just very too late in the game against Villa on Saturday. But we move, as they say. We move on. So yeah, tired but functional, most importantly.
Yeah, all good this end as well. As you said, bit of a hit and miss start to the season. Good result Saturday. 2 points dropped last night away at Hartlepool. And similar to you, we crack on.
Nice one. So Joe, first question I will ask, and I hope this doesn't come across disrespectful. When you first came up in 2017, I thought, not sure how they're going to do. You know, good solid side, but in the Championship, we're pushing for years. Remember you beat, I think it was Doncaster on your first game in the Championship when you moved to the Amex or Falmer. I think I said that right, I hope not. I don't know. And I thought, yeah, Brighton will be in the Premier League one day. But I didn't know how you get on, and now, lo and behold, you've overtaken most of the Premier League, including Matt and I's team. And you're looking now, well, who knows, possibly at a push to Europe. What has life been like to be a Brighton and Hove Albion fan these last 5 or so years? It must have been a hell of a ride.
Yeah, it's been a bit mental. We had a few chances before we actually went up to get promoted. A few torrid times in the playoffs. And I was a bit sort of crapping myself a bit that we were going to have to go through the playoffs again. But we got it done automatically. I think the year before, when we lost to Sheffield Wednesday in the playoffs, if we'd gone up then, I think we would have really struggled the next season. It wasn't our time. Like all the times before, it's happened at the right time. And as you say, like when we went up, it was just, honestly, I thought it's going to be one season. We're going to be in the Premier League. We're going to have the time of our lives. We're going to see the best players in the world play against our little football club who almost went out of existence 25 years ago, sort of this year. So yeah, it's been crazy, and obviously with Chris Hughton, nothing was sort of progressing. A lot of people thought maybe a bold move to get rid of him, such an established manager, and he knows the league, knows the game so well. To bring in Graham Potter, who managed in Sweden for a while, only managed I think a season at Swansea. but the guy has just been a revelation. He's easily our best asset, and we just have to keep hold of him, because all the time we've got Graham Potter, we're just going to be going up. And as you say, possibly maybe even push for Europe this season. I know a lot of other teams are being backed, like Aston Villa, Newcastle, with their financial fundings behind them. But we recruit so smartly, and some of the players that we got through the door, people hadn't heard of 3 years ago, and they're arguably some of the best players outside of the top six. So we're in a really good spot at the moment, and long may it continue.
I was going to say, on the recruitment side of it, because as an Evertonian, I'm actually quite jealous. Not because you're better than us, but because you seem to have no strikers, sell a striker, even though you have none in the case of Mope, and still score goals, win games, and look like a cohesive team despite selling your best players. Whereas we sell like a bag of chips and we can't do anything. How much does that you put down to getting Dan Ashworth in as technical director from the FA a little while ago? Now I think he's moved up to Newcastle now. But given the contingency plan through various managers and the, like you say, the scouting of players like the likes of Mwepu, Basuma, and there are countless others, Kukurea, who's moved on since as well. How much do you attribute to the likes of him, or do you think it's come more from Tony Bloom at the top?
It's been massive from everybody that's come in. We have to admire what Dan Ashworth's done. He's put in a really good contingency plan going forwards, and the thing for us moving Dan Ashworth on was we weren't worried, because, as I say, he'd made those structures in our recruitment team, and that's just going to stay the same going forwards. Obviously, massive shout out to Tony Bloom as well for putting the faith in a recruitment team, rather than what a lot of teams do, is just do it through the directors of football. And so it's been really good, and we can't complain. But what's really good about it is we cannot compete financially. There's no chance. So getting these players in, like Joel Veltman for 900k, Pascal Gross for £3.5 million, Caicedo for £4 million. These players go on to play such a massive role, and we said it on a podcast when we joined a few guys from Newcastle last week. Caicedo, he's got a bigger ceiling than Basuma. He's going to go right to the very top, and we sing a song about him winning the Ballon d'Or. Maybe a bit tongue in cheek, but honestly, he if he carries on, he is that good, and he's played 10 games for us. So we're not trying to get too carried away, obviously, because he's still a really young guy. But if he carries on the way he's going, he's going to be one of the best players in the world.
Hasn't he been linked with Man United? I mean, who hasn't this week, let's be honest. They've tried to sign him.
I've been linked with Man United this week.
I saw that on Twitter. I think I read that this afternoon, which goes to show already how well that recruitment is going. If you've already got players who've played 10 games for the team, who are being touted by bigger sides in inverted commas.
Yeah, the funniest thing is Man United were in the race to sign Caicedo when we signed him in the first place. And they pulled out of the deal because they thought £4 million was too much for him. So we were well happy with that, obviously, because we've got some player on our hands. And now, obviously, if he does move on, now we're talking, like, we don't want to sell him. Of course, we don't want to sell him. So we're going to be saying, give us £65 million, because he's one of the best youngsters in the league. We've just sold Basuma, so if we get rid of Caicedo as well, we're going to be really short in our midfield options. So yeah, if they're linked to him, great, but they're not going to get him, and they should have taken that punt. That's what we do. We take punts on players, and then it works out so well for us, and other people will come along and nitpick our squad. Obviously, it happens to a squad like Brighton. It happened to Southampton. It's happened to so many clubs in the place that we're at financially. And like, we took a punt on Kukurea last season, £15 million release clause. One of the best players I've ever seen in a Brighton shirt. We're so thankful for what he's done for us. And then we get £62 million for him. So let's say Chelsea took that punt last season as well, or Man City took that punt on him. they'd have one hell of a player on their hands for years to come. And obviously Chelsea have got him now, but they've had to pay a fair price for it.
Interesting that you mentioned.
Yeah, it must be very... Go on, Jimmy.
No, just say it.
So it's strange, again, being some foot and Everton situation where, again, we've seen us spunk so much money in the last 5 years up and beyond that period. Is it strange to have that situation where you've lost, a few players over the past couple of seasons, but to still have trust in that system that you're going to go out and find someone and it's all going to be okay? I suppose it's a strange way to look at it, but to have that so much trust in the recruitment system that no matter who you lose, i.e. Kukurea, Basuma, that there's still going to be people who are going to find to fill those gaps, and the system just carries on moving.
Yeah, exactly. We have to just put full faith in Tony Bloom, in Graham Potter, because honestly, you take a man off the street, Graham Potter will make him a Premier League footballer. He is such a class manager, and we're so lucky to have a guy as well that's got a degree in emotional intelligence. So these are massive egos all around that dressing room, and he's got to make sure that 25 guys are happy with only 11 people starting, and we've got all these youngsters coming through. We need to keep their feet on the ground as well. So yeah, a lot of our fans sort of scream out for the big £50 million signing, but that's just not us. It's never going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen in the next 5 years. Let's say, like if we get to Europe, if we continue our trajectory into football, like people look at us and think, yeah, you'll get to Europe, you'll fail, you'll go down, just like every other club has done. But our owner, as long as we've got Tony Bloom at the helm, we're going in the right direction, and it's really exciting times.
I must say it's interesting that we mentioned like some Man United, Chelsea and so on, because I think those are the kind of clubs that do the kind of business model that we see a lot of in the Premier League, the kind of spending big, high risk signings, the big names. As Matt alluded to, Everton have become that kind of club until FFP's hit, which, victims of our own misspending there. Whereas I look at the likes of yourselves, and I would argue Brentford as well, as being smart recruiters, not necessarily the biggest clubs in the nicest way, but modern stadium, good location, able to attract in the right kind of players for a good price. And it makes you wonder, first off, why is that not the business model that most Premier League clubs outside of maybe the very small elite adopt? Because so many clubs spend so much, not just us or United or whoever. We're just two major examples. You look at some of the money that other clubs, spend big on players and it goes wrong. But also, you just think like, well, if Brighton can do it, every club should have that kind of model, and you really have become like the real forebearers for that kind of way of running a football club. It kind of reminds me of us at the Moyes a bit, in that we'd lose our best players, but we'd always, you buy low, sell high, and I just think it's a really good model to go by. Really, it makes you wonder, what are the other clubs not doing that Brighton are? Why is it that Brighton can pick up a player from the Belgian league, for example, and is it Mwepu for a couple of million, or from wherever, some lesser known league in Europe, or even lower down the divisions? Why are other clubs think they're too good for that? It's bizarre. Works for you, like, obviously. Yeah,
and that as well, it would be so good for football if other clubs were like, I'm not trying to like sound big-headed, but it would be so good if other clubs were like us. These massive transfer fees and these huge wages, and it's in the end, it's just it'll ruin football. Like I've had times in the last couple of years where I've sort of fallen out of love with it because of all this money going around, all the greediness, all the corporate rubbish. Like we almost went out of business, as I say, because of this corporate way that you buy a football club and you can make money off it. Our owners at the time, they sold us into the ground. They sold our ground with nowhere to go. And we were a point away from going out of the Football League. And it makes me so proud when you say like that Brighton are looked at as the example in the Premier League, because this might not have been here. For one goal, for one moment in a match, this wouldn't have been here. And all the times that our older generation fans have suffered, have gone to Gillingham for home games, 2 hour trip there, 2 hour trip back. it makes me so grateful that I've got a club here to support today, and we're in the Premier League. Beating Manchester City, beating Arsenal, beating Man United on the opening day. It's just one hell of a story, and I'm surprised there's not been a film in it, to be honest, because honestly it gives me goosebumps every time. Maybe it's because it's my club, but it's one hell of a story, and as I said earlier, long may it continue.
Oh, it really is. I think the likes of yourselves, Bournemouth, Brentford, and I think earlier on Swansea and Hull are examples of clubs that have been able to build, through the lower reaches. I mean, I remember, I never went, but I remember looking at the Withdean on telly, a few games, and just thinking, Jesus Christ, am I right in thinking it was like a rented athletic stadium or something, the Withdean? It wasn't actually a football ground. Tell me about your experience at the stadium, if you wish to.
Athletic stadium, temporary seating that was put in, which turned into be the only seating we ever had there for the whole time. No improvements made. I remember us playing Manchester City when they got taken over, like the same week they got taken over by the oil money of Abu Dhabi and or Dubai, whatever it is. And we beat them on penalties in the League Cup with Dean, and there's these players like, I don't know if you remember the player called Joe, who they signed for like God knows how many.
We remember Joe. We had him twice.
I think they had Robinho as well. Kasper Schmeichel in goal, a young Kasper Schmeichel. So taking teams to the Withdean, and I guess it just made them think like, what the heck is this? Like, this isn't a football stadium. I'm not here to play football. And then we'd turn up and play sometimes the worst football under Gus Poyet, the best football League One's ever seen. And yeah, it's crazy to now look at the Amex and think that that's where we were playing our football at the Withdean. You look at it now, it's all overgrown. It's like got cracks in the walls everywhere. It wasn't fit to be a football stadium, but the most important thing was to get us home.
Talking about the Withdean there, Joe, it's just kind of something's just on in my head that we've spoken about it on a couple of our previous podcasts at Tranmere at the minute. We're kind of in that transition stage on and off the pitch. So we seem to be looking towards adopting a very similar recruitment style to yourselves and Brentford, which, as we've said, seems to be the way to go at all kind of levels of the pyramid. And obviously, we'd then become a feeder club for a club like yourselves, or a Burnley or a Barnsley or whatever. But in terms of your stadium move, obviously you were without a stadium at one stage. Obviously, a new ground was essential. One of the kind of selling points that we're being told at the minute by our owner, or through the consultation stage, there's a little bit of a rift in with the fan base that a lot of people don't want to move away from where we currently are because they see it as fairly fit for purpose. And at our level, obviously in League Two, take Bradford out of the equation, it is probably the best ground in the division. At the same time, in another 5 years or so, there's going to be a major investment needed to be able to bring it to that next level. And one of the things that Mark Palios is saying is that fans need to not be selfish for their own reasons now, but to kind of secure the club in the future, if that makes sense. What kind of fan base, in terms of like numbers, attendances and so on, did you have pre the stadium move? So when you were in that kind of League 1, League 2, what was your kind of club size, if that makes sense? And then obviously you've grown as you've gone up through the divisions. Yeah,
I think the maximum at the Withdean was about 5,000. You couldn't fit any more. You, like as I said, when the stadium was made for us, it was temporary seats, and they stayed there until we moved out. You look at it now, I think there's like a small like documentary thing about like how it looks now. They've still got a few of them there, but I don't know how people did it week in, week out. Like I was maybe too young and a little bit too far away to go there like all the time. But it was like no shelter. People called it the Theatre of Trees. Now we're at the Amex, obviously state of the art stadium, probably one of the best of its kind. Obviously, I know there's these like super stadiums now, like the Tottenham Stadium. There's more stadiums on the way. I believe even Everton looking at a new stadium still.
It's being built as we speak.
Being built. Ah, okay.
What was the last update? I can't remember what it was. I read it the other day. They've started the concrete structure, even get my words out. So they have it reckoning for 2 seasons' time, Jim?
I think it's about 2 seasons. I mean, all I can really say on it is I don't read the updates, because the updates always come out after we lose to try and cheat the fans up, which, admittedly, I'm not into that kind of politics. Like, oh, we lost again. Here's a stadium update.
It helps.
Doesn't help. There's not much any updates you can do once a week, is there? But all I can say is I was walking along the front at New Brighton, not Brighton to be confused. There is a place called New Brighton up here, which is named after Brighton, I believe, because it is very sunny, very seasidey and lovely. Dec's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And you can see the stadium on the waterfront, Liverpool, from it. And all I'll say is there's cranes up. You can see the first tiers kind of been built behind the ends. And it's looking pretty good. So I reckon about 2 years. Yeah, I think we are due our last 2 years of Goodison. Or, this is our last season.
I think that their aim was for the start of season 2020, or would it be 24, 25? Yeah. I think was their aim.
I think this is...
Knowing Everton. 2028, knowing Everton.
Yeah. I saw the plans and they were stunning.
Yeah, the designs look amazing.
Yeah, the plan is... Yeah, to have that steep stance that Spurs have got with the one angled sign.
The single tier kind of wall, a bit like Dortmund, but with seats,
single tier, I think I meant to say. Yeah, but Spurs have got as well. So they've put some thought into it and have tried to keep it that kind of very closed in, not, a bit like when West Ham had theirs at the first few. It's adjusted over the past few years. But they've tried to keep it a football stadium first and foremost, but which can amend itself. So I'm looking forward to it.
Whether they can try and keep it a football team on the pitch, then we'll see. But, less said about that, the better.
I loved watching the Amex go up. They had like a time lapse of the Amex going up, like a live cam. And now obviously it's done. There's like a whole time lapse of it, which is spectacular to watch if you haven't done so. Yeah. But yeah, me and my dad would go there like every weekend and have a peek through the builders' hoardings that they had up, so obviously nobody could get on the construction site. And it was magical just to see these massive arches going in. There's at the time like a 21,000 seater stadium for a club that, as I say, almost died, and now it's a 32,000 seater stadium, which is spectacular. I don't know if there's any plans to extend it. We try and fit in as many seats as we can, but the owner's plan is to try and keep it as comfortable but as full as possible. I don't know if you guys have been to the Amex, but we've got padded seats on every seat. We've got leg room. They've treated us, let's say that. But yeah, it's all good.
I've not been personally.
Rochdale and try and make a dream.
Yeah, Everton can only dream. Padded seating, leg room. I mean, I'm 5'2" and I don't like the leg room at Goodison.
Wooden seats are good, isn't it?
But no, I've not. Yeah, Woodison. Yeah.
Fell asleep a few times.
Not from watching the football. No, I've not been the Amex person. I've always wanted to go, and now you've told me there's padded seating and leg room and everything else. Then, yeah, absolutely, would love to go. It always looks fantastic, and I think as well, watching the women's Euros as well and seeing the atmosphere. I know it's not Brighton and Hove Albion as such, but the way that beating Norway 8-0 for the England side. I know we alluded to the women's game quite a lot with Bethan on the last podcast. Yeah. Thought it was a great venue for that tournament as well, which I think again promotes the club and the stadium.
I went to the quarterfinals against Spain at the Amex, and it was honestly some of the best experience I've ever had at the Amex. And that's talking like 2 months prior to that, we beat Man United 4-0 at the Amex. That was special, but the women's Euros was just another level. And the atmosphere at the women's game is just so different and so refreshing. I hope that we can have more there, and there's plans to have Brighton there, the women's team for Brighton. Brilliant. First 2 games of the season. I saw something really cool that Sunderland are doing like a double header for their men's and women's team, so playing on the same day. That would be amazing if other clubs could implement that as well, to try and get those numbers up and to show people that women's football can be so spectacular. Like we saw obviously England winning the Euros, that's done wonders for the game, and I hope that momentum continues.
I want to take it back a couple of years now, a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, to a time where you might say Brighton have always been, moderate spenders, but there was a time where Brighton were quite big spenders in their league. More and more, particularly in relating to, I think, 2005 in the third tier, when you spent a total of £250,000 on Colin Kazim-Richards. Quite a big fee for a third division team at any stage. Very strange circumstances there about that one. I don't know if you remember much of that, or you can allude to what happened there. What caused Brighton to suddenly splash out on Colin Kazim-Richards?
I was about 9 when that happened.
Yeah, unusual thing that.
I just remember watching highlights and hearing from my dad, because I didn't get into Brighton sort of till I was about 12. So those years sort of I have to watch that. We've got a DVD series called The Withdean Years, and I've done so much watching of that to refresh my memory, and so I can come on here and talk like I was there 25 years ago. But I'm 26 years old, so some things I didn't experience, but I live it for other people. But yeah, I don't think he did amazing for us. If I remember, other Brighton fans, if you are listening to this, please correct me. And I think he went on to other things. I think he was at so many different clubs after us.
Absolute journeyman. Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, which not only played for both. But
it's a bit crazy that we did spend that money, because I don't know if you remember our old shirts, but across the front of it we had skint.
Yeah.
And we were skint.
That was it. You were the first club to have your bank balance as your sponsor, weren't you? But the reason why I bring that up is because it was actually down to a certain drinks beverage, which I suppose we probably can name it on here. We're not sponsored by anything. It was down to Coca-Cola, who sponsored the league at the time. They had that competition where basically you enter the competition as a Football League fan, and you could win 250 grand for your club. And a Brighton fan won it and spent 250 grand on Colin Kazim-Richards. So, and he was sold a year later for £150,000 to Sheffield United, I believe. So they actually took a loss on him after all that. But
well, there you go.
He was known as a Coca-Cola kid.
That's Brighton for you.
That is, yeah. Them were the days, when you had the Coca-Cola kid and Bobby Zamora up front.
I'd love to know where you pluck these facts from sometimes.
I just remembered on Sky Sports News.
I didn't even know that.
That it was a competition winner, and I wasn't sure.
He's Raid Man.
I wasn't sure if it was Zamora or it was Kazim-Richards, so I had a little Google search then, and it was like, oh my god, it was Kazim-Richards. I'd rather it was Zamora, because obviously 2 spells at Brighton, bit of a legend, I believe, at the club. Kazim-Richards,
massive.
Not so much. But
no.
Yeah, just the fact that Coca-Cola bought a player for you, which I think was absolutely amazing. Considering where you are now, I think it's a hell of a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So apart from losing £100,000 on Coca-Cola kid, Joe, outside of obviously gaining promotion to the Premiership, which is kind of what all of us as lower league football club supporters can only dream of, what would you say is or has been your standout moment as a Brighton fan? It could be something completely random, an away game, a victory against a rival or whatever, but what's been that one kind of the moment that got you hooked?
Goodness me.
That is one hell of for that.
That is one hell of a question. I think I have to go for our promotion season under Gus Poyet, from League One to the Championship, because it was so important for us to get promoted that season and to move into our new stadium the season after. And to have that day against Doncaster Rovers, unfortunately, I didn't get there. I didn't get a ticket. Tickets were gold dust. I went to my first game at the Amex a couple of weeks after against Blackpool. But yeah, that season was just magic. We seemed to win every single week. Glenn Murray scored 400 million goals. Ashley Barnes was some hell of a player back then, and we had the likes of Liam Bridcut, Craig Noon, Gordon Greer, Lewis Dunk, even he was with us back then, obviously Brighton born and bred. So yeah, that was an incredible season, and what a way as well to say goodbye to our temporary home that served us so well, to get to win. I think it was like our third trophy there, So yeah, it has to be that. And then the season prior, we done really well in the Championship. A lot of people tipped us to go down, but we made some really good signings like Craig McCall-Smith, Will Buckley, and then we had the guy Vicente from Spain, who was like the maddest signing Brighton had ever made. I think he was friends with Gus Poyet. And that was just the guy was he ripped the Championship to pieces on his day. The issue was he was like 40 years old and injury prone. But no, it was amazing to see that the players that Brighton could attract now that they were going in the right direction. And obviously a couple of seasons under Gus in the Championship, and then we got Oscar Garcia, made the playoffs. And when we made the playoffs under Oscar, obviously we made the playoffs under Gus as well, but we don't talk about that because we lost to Crystal Palace. Yeah, I think when we made the playoffs those few times, that the dream was realised, that the door was prized open, and people thought, right, yeah, this can happen. And we had a few bumps along the way, Sami Hyypiä, but we made it there eventually. So yeah, I think if I'm picking a standout moment, except for the promotion to the Premier League, it has to be that season at the Withdean, because if it wasn't for that, who knows where we'd be.
I'm personally shocked it isn't watching Jesse Lingard week in, week out.
Honest, he was crazy. Like it was great to have a Man United youngster with us, and he came into the team and breathed new life into it, because it was going a little bit stale under Oscar, and he came in, he scored against Derby in the playoffs, and then that all went to pot because we lost 4-1 in the next leg. I don't like the playoffs. It gives me, I don't like it.
Greg, I believe you've got a question, or go on, sorry.
Go on, Greg.
You just spoke about Will Buckley. Will Buckley started from the Rochdale youth team, which is quite interesting. So I've got a lot of fond memories of Will Buckley. What was Will Buckley like for Brighton? Because I think we had the Sunderland lads on a few months ago, and they couldn't quite remember how many games he played for Sunderland or any memorable games. But I remember, thinking about it now, that I remember he had some actually cracking games for Brighton. What are your overall feelings of him at Brighton, Will Buckley?
Absolutely adored him.
Yeah,
he was a great player to watch. He was rapid. He was just took people on and got fans off their seats. Famously, he scored the first 2 competitive goals at the Amex in the 95th minute as well to beat Doncaster on our return to our permanent home. So he's held in really high regard at Brighton, and will go down, I think, as a Brighton legend, because he gave so much in his few years with us. And yeah, I could go down into Brighton and ask anybody about Will Buckley, and they would know exactly who I'm talking about. So that's total credit to him. Obviously, after the players that we've had prior to him, the thing that was a shame for Will Buckley was that his hamstrings were made out of glass, and he was so injury prone. I think it was the season under Oscar Garcia that he just fell out of favour a little bit because of the injury, and Solly March was coming through at the time. And then obviously he got his money moved to Sunderland anyway, because Gus liked him so much. Obviously he took Liam Bridcut off us as well at the same time. I adore Will Buckley. I've got him on the back of my away shirt from our first season at the Amex. So he's a guy that I'll remember until I move on.
Brilliant. That's good to hear. Brilliant, that.
It's been quite a few Brighton Rochdale connections, isn't there? I noticed you got a Glenn Murray shirt behind you there. Did he play for Dale as well, Greg? Am I right in thinking? I'm judging by your reaction
I
before.
do.
We sold him to Brighton.
Oh, really?
For 300,000, I think, was it? 2009?
I don't know what the fee was.
2008?
2009, yeah.
I think it was... Yeah.
an amazing guy, and as you said, I've got a shirt framed by Glenn Murray there. Unfortunately, not match worn. I just needed his shirt in a frame because he is the legend.
I know he didn't play that many games for us, and we love him.
I know he went to Palace, but we've forgiven him because he came back and obviously fired us to the Premier League, and we are forever grateful. And he's, I believe, our second top goal scorer in our history, so he has to be held in high regard. I know a lot of Brighton fans sort of still call him Judas and this, but they're very few and far between. But what a guy. And I don't think you can really blame him for moving on to Crystal Palace, because Gus Poyet didn't want to renew his almost said season ticket. He didn't want to renew his contract. That Glenn Murray still wanted to live in Brighton because he'd made a home for his family. Obviously, after Crystal Palace, he moved on to Bournemouth, so he's always stayed in and around the area that it's easy for his family. And I believe he's still in Brighton now. So I love the guy.
We've spoken a bit about I'll whisper it quietly, Crystal Palace. You've mentioned with playoffs and Glenn Murray and who precisely? Is that an owl in the room? What is the situation with that rivalry? Because I think to a lot of outsiders outside of both clubs, they see it as a bit of an unusual one. I don't know if you'd agree, in that I think it's about 100 miles between Brighton and Croydon. I could be totally wrong on that one. The geography south of Manchester is not great. But describe to us where that rivalry kind of comes from, because it is a really reciprocated, really quite nasty rivalry between two clubs that aren't that close to each other. But where does that sort of develop from?
Yeah, it's because Crawley are crap. No, I'm joking. It's because so back in the 80s, I believe, I think it was the 80s. So we had a manager called Alan Mullery, and they had a manager called Terry Venables, and they both played together at Spurs, and they didn't get on. And then when they clashed as managers, it was quite fiery, and the fans would obviously back their managers to the hilt. And basically, I think the rivalry mainly stems from Alan Mullery walking up to some Palace fans, emptying his pockets with the change onto the floor and saying, "That's all your club's worth." And I think they then didn't like us, and they were chanting Eagles at us, and then we chanted back Seagulls, and that's actually where our nickname now was born from that rivalry. We were the Dolphins before, because there was a dolphin breeding thing in Brighton, so we've got them to thank for our wonderful Seagull badge now. But it just stems from the history of those two managers not getting on. It's just built from there, and now we just hate them. It's not, everyone calls it the N25 derby, or like they always call it a derby. It's not a derby, it's a rivalry. We're nowhere near them. We're about 50 to 60 miles away, and we just hate them.
You can swear if you want, and we agree that Crawley are crap with their crypto cronies. But yeah, I think I'm right to think as well. It sort of goes back to sort of, again, the 70s, 80s period in the third division, when you're both battling up the top end as well, to give it a bit more than just playground chanting and throwing pockets of money at people. I think there is a competitive rivalry there as well. And like I say, I don't like the hype of using the word derby for most games, admittedly. One that particularly sticks in my craw is when someone describes a game as a London derby. Well, London's pretty huge. There's so many clubs. Like, not being funny, if you go distance between like West Ham and Fulham, that's a long distance to travel. Anyone who's been on that kind of trip, so yeah. But it is an interesting rivalry, and I know there's a bit of needle there both sides. But I just thought, because obviously I think with Everton, obviously we're literally like quarter of a mile away, unfortunately, from the other lot, with their massive, stand. Too close. The giant hole puncher for main stand.
That's why you're moving away.
How
far away is your new stadium to Liverpool?
About
it's not
2 miles.
It's not that much further, but it's on.
As the crow
It's
flies,
on the
it's all
waterfront,
over.
but it's quite funny actually because I know Dax can have a very impassioned thought on this. Just to give you a heads up on this one, Joe. You know where I'm going with this, don't you, Dak? Yeah, right. If Tranmere Rovers do indeed move their stadium to... Oh, go on. You come off mute.
No, I'm having my screen's flickering here.
Oh,
boys.
right.
1 second.
You sure it's not just your eyes flickering with rage at the thought of this? Basically, the thought is,
I'm
if
turning red.
Tranmere do move their stadium to a place called Bidston, which is still in Birkenhead, it just means you have to walk a little bit further. It could be that you have Tranmere's new ground on a site of a Tesco and a gym in this place called Bidston, and literally on the waterfront of the Whittle. And then you just go over the Mersey about a mile, and you're going to have Everton's ground literally the other side of the river, facing Tranmere Stadium. So in theory, we could have two stadiums less than a mile away from each other, but separated by a river. So, you know, a bit like Nottingham, but shitter. But yeah, I think Dak's got his thought.
Speak for yourself.
It's gonna be. It's gonna be. The ground's gonna be flooded in about a couple of years. The way the global warming's going, but.
If they're going to be sharing a ground with Tesco's, may I remind Crystal Palace fans, if they're listening, that they share their rent with Sainsbury's. So yeah, you're welcome.
I never knew that. I never knew that Crystal Palace shared their rent with Sainsbury's. Fair enough.
I don't think they share the rent, but it's there's a Sainsbury's and then there's their stadium, and we like to joke that Sainsbury's pays their rent. So, yeah.
Change their kit to orange. Go on, Dak. Greg.
Was it Hull's old stadium that was connected to a quick save?
Yes, I think it was.
Why would you know that?
Because you went, Greg.
Because I went to it.
I never went to Boothby Park.
2004.
I never went to Boothby Park, but I think you're right.
It was a death trap. I think the fire exit for the quick save was sort of coming into the something weird. It was bizarre. It was very. Somebody needs to Google that somehow, but
at least it's not Luton and they're backed onto people's back gardens. I think in the away end you have to walk through people's back gardens
I want to go.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Imagine living there. That's weird.
You must get season tickets. You'd have to get free season.
Look out your bedroom window and the game's going on. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Then again, I think speaking of Tesco, we were linked with... Was it a move to
Kirby?
Kirby, and that was linked with the Tesco.
That was a Tesco thing. Let that thing go through. But yeah, that's the only reason I wanted Luton in the Premier League is so people, you can imagine you're like United fans and Liverpool fans having to go through someone's back garden to go to an away game with their little row of conservatories as one of the stands. I love it. Joe, where's like the worst place you've been to follow Brighton? Palace aside, of course. I mean, you can say Goodison because the away end is a shithole.
So it might be a weird one, but actually MK Dons. Because it's you're welcome, Deck. It's weird. It's in the middle of nowhere, but it's got everything around it. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
It's the Moo
They've
Campaign.
plonked like TGI Fridays, Ben and Jerry's, bloody a shopping centre, and it's literally in the middle of nowhere. And it was crap. We took 7,000 fans with us to MK Dons because they were doing some like family thing, like kids go for £2, adults for 10, and we had more away fans than there were home fans, and they've got to be the worst club in the footballing 92. They're just such a franchise, and I think they should get relegated to non-league because it'd be funny.
Agreed.
7,000 away fans. You'd almost have enough to put one away fan on every single roundabout in the place, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
that's all it's there.
That was
concrete towers, roundabouts, and a few shops. Really,
God, we've started.
Tottenham fans, pretty much all Milton Keynes, isn't it?
That was a great away day. I remember it specifically because they missed a penalty in the last minute, and my mum punched me in the face accidentally, of course. But I had like a scratch on my nose. Yeah, I know. I had like a scratch on my nose from where she was celebrating, and she just went straight in my face.
The way you described that, it's like your mum was fuming that they'd missed the penalty, like she was a massive MK Dons fan or something. It was like...
No. We were celebrating too much, and the away end went off, and she got a bit too excited.
I can't imagine anything worse than getting beaten up by your own mum in Milton Keynes.
I know, in front of all the away fans as well.
In front of all those home fans. No.
She's never lived it down. If you're listening to this, Mum, I've just told 4 other strangers, so you're welcome.
Indeed, and all our millions of...
There are numbers you can call, Joe.
We will share the number for Childline after this podcast. If you've been affected by any of the issues raised in today's episode, then please contact the numbers.
On that point of the worst away ground, has there been a point where, as you've gone up through the leagues, where you've been stood in an away ground and just gone, wow, I kind of can't believe I'm here watching my side play at this ground? Because there must be some moments, Old Trafford or one of those kind of grounds.
I don't think I can mention the stadium that I'm going to talk about.
You can mention them. You'll be blacklisted, but you can mention them. Go on, that's fine.
Is it Rochdale?
My first away day in the Premier League. I don't get so many away days because I just can't afford it. But the best one for me was watching my little club at Anfield against Liverpool in the Premier League. We lost 4-0, so I got the full treatment. And it didn't bother me one bit. We were already safe, and it was just incredible to be with like-minded fans at a Premier League grounds that we'd been to in the FA Cup but hadn't played there, obviously in the top flight for God knows how long. So yeah, that was really special for me. But I'll keep that one short and sweet.
No, it's fine. Matt and I can tell you sympathise with losing 4-0 at Anfield. So I mean, you know, it's
it's
a seasonal. Is it even a season if we don't get hammered there? I mean, the only time we win there's when no fans.
It's quite nice when What's quite nice when the fixtures are released in June, July. You look for when we playing them. Right, there's the 4-0 loss. Get that in early. Nice to see.
Yeah.
And then you move on.
Yeah, you just.
Like I said, there's 3 things in life: you're born, you die, and Everton will always find a way to lose at Anfield.
You beat him in the lockdown season, was it? Was that right?
Indeed.
Yeah, but we can't sit there. This year is great. If we're going to say to them that them winning the league didn't count because it was a lockdown situation, we then can't really start claiming 2-0 victories.
Right.
That's
fair enough.
Was that when Jordan Pickford tried to break or kill Virgil van Dijk?
No, that was the 2-2 draw in earlier in that season.
And it was a fair challenge, Joe.
It was totally fair. Van Dijk was offside, therefore
he might have missed
everything.
Exactly.
Hang on, I make that day 3,126 of people moaning about this now, because all we've heard about on Twitter for the last...
Did you know?
Did you know that Pickford broke Van Dijk's leg? Yes, we know.
Yeah, I put that in the same vein as did you know that Dave Whelan broke his leg in an FA Cup final. It's in that similar...
Everyone knows it by now, but it's just always brought up.
The 2-0 was Richarlison and name redacted got the second.
Yeah.
With a penalty, and it wasn't a particularly amazing game of football. They had that run. They had that run of form, but they seemed to lose.
Well, yeah, because you won Anfield in that run of games, didn't you, Joe? I think you won. I think was it 1-0 or 2-1 at Anfield as well, behind closed doors.
Yeah, we won 1-0, and the most unlikeliest of scorers, Steven Alzate, scored. Trossard tried to claim it because they both went for it at the same time, but I think Trossard kicked Alzate's boot into the ball. So I guess we can give them both the goal, so that'll make it fair.
He's a funny one, Steven Alzate, isn't he? I don't know how much you know, but he's like worshipped. Is he half Colombian? Am I right in thinking he's absolutely worshipped in Colombia?
Yeah,
but he's born in like this country.
Yeah, the boy's class.
Yeah.
I love him. Yeah, I really like him. I think he's been really unlucky that we've had players that Graham Potter's favoured over him, because when called upon, he's just so class and so reliable, and I hope that he gets a few more chances this season, obviously with Basuma leaving, so yeah, we really rate him down here.
Goalkeeper for Brighton, Robert Sanchez, he used to play for Rochdale, another one.
Big Bob.
He was absolutely fantastic for Rochdale. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the modern times for us. He played in net for us against Man United in the Carling Cup, and we took them to penalties, and he was great. And then he played in net for us against Newcastle in the FA Cup, and he was unbelievable. And we knew we weren't going to keep hold of him. In terms of where he is right now at Brighton, do you think, because he's sort of skyrocketed a little bit, he's sort of in and out of the Spain squad, is that about right? He's I think, Sanchez,
I think he is.
Do you think he can... How far can he go in the game? Because I think he's about 23, is he? Something like that?
About 18 yards off his line, I think.
Yeah. The guy's got a massive ceiling. He's got amazing potential. He could go to any club he likes and have a chance of being their number one. He's got a little bit of a mistake in him, but we don't begrudge him for that. He's, as you say, still a young guy, and still needs to sort of learn his trade. But we've got a great goalkeeper coach as well at Brighton, Ben Roberts, who was with us in his playing days. He's been in the Spain squad since the Euros or just before, I believe. And I think he'll stay there. You look at De Gea, he's just laughable. Like if you can choose De Gea over Robert Sanchez, then you need your head fully tested, because Sanchez it's been class for us since he came in. It was a massive call from Graham Potter, to be fair. Obviously we had Australian international at the time, self-proclaimed world-class goalkeeper Matty Ryan, who had arms shorter than a 4-year-old, massive call. And he's just been doing so well since then. We lost the first game with him in the net, but it was against Spurs. But I just remember watching him and seeing how commanding he was in his box, and he's just massive, isn't he? I remember watching that penalty shootout. I think I was at the Amex. It was like after a game. I can't remember who we were playing, but I remember standing in the concourse, like willing him to win you that penalty shootout and come back to us and be our number one, because he's been with us for a long time now, and everyone always thought that he would become, not this soon, and it's great that he is our number one now, but we thought it would be a little bit in the future.
I think he was at Forest Green before he came to us, and we heard a lot of rumours on Twitter that, you can drop a clanger, he's not very good and all this kind of stuff. But first few games I saw him, I thought, don't think so, he's very good. He's not going to be here long. Yeah.
Unbelievable shot stopper. Some of his saves that he's pulled off for us are just like mind blowing. Obviously, I don't know if you guys watched the Man United game that we played a couple of weeks ago. It was offside, albeit, but Ronaldo played the ball through to Rashford, and Sanchez makes himself as big as possible and denies him from point blank range, which is just like, if that was Matty Ryan, he'd let Rashford have it. It's a weird one with Matty Ryan though, but obviously I've joked about him a little bit. He done really well for us first couple of seasons. He was with us, and then sort of got a bit too big for his boots and just fell out of favour, and we didn't have anybody really to challenge him. We had some great players out on loan like Robert Sanchez, Christian Walton, who we thought could come back and really challenge him, and we had Tim Krul on a 1-year deal, which pushed him a little bit. But then as soon as Sanchez came back, Potter was like, "Matty, you're off, mate," and I'm going to put my faith in this 21-year-old. So, yeah, it's all worked out for the best.
Are there any, speaking of younger players coming through, the likes of Sanchez and that now, are there any young players coming through, whether they've been bought from abroad or from this country, or any young lads coming through the academy that you'd say to watch out for the next few years at Brighton?
Yeah, one big one. Again, it's another goalkeeper, Carl Rushworth. I think he's at Walsall now, maybe. I'm not sure. Please correct me if you do know. He's so good. He's playing for England under 21s. At the moment, I believe, or under 19s. And if you get a chance, type in Carl Rushworth save for Worthing. It's the best save you'll ever see in your life.
So just a heads up, he's been at Worthing,
we're excited.
Walsall, and now at Lincoln in League One. Just as a heads up.
Lincoln.
And he was born in 2001, which makes me feel sick. I feel so old.
We're really excited about him. We've got a guy as well in our academy called Todd Miller, who has exactly the same hair as Mark Cucurella, and we were all sort of making a joke that we've still got a guy with massive hair, and we can sing our song about him. But he's looking really promising. We've got Evan Ferguson, the striker, who's featured a little bit for our first team. Hopefully he can go in a different direction to Aaron Connolly. Obviously a young Irish lad in Brighton. I think Man United were linked to him at one point. We've struggled to keep hold of him, to be honest, because a lot of teams are looking at him. And I hope that he does get his chance in the first team. He played a few times in the FA Cup for us last season, most notably against West Brom, and came on and played so well, didn't look out of place at all. And then you've got the likes of our loan players that have come back, like Mitoma. We've got Van Heck, who played a blinder for Blackburn last season. So yeah, we're in a good spot, and we're doing such great investment into the youth system, and we've got ready-made replacements to come into the first team, and we've got a manager that loves to take a punt on the youngster. So it's good stuff.
Random question, Joe. Favourite Brighton kit of all time? Now, there's a little bit of a reasoning behind asking this. We're hoping over the next couple of weeks to be able to. We've had a lad who's on Twitter. He runs a football shirt account, and we're hoping to get him on. But as we start to branch out and ask fans from different clubs and so on to come on, we're going to hopefully try and ask them, obviously, as we go through the different clubs, their favourite shirt. Could be a modern kind of shirt of local, more recent years, or obviously going back through the decade. So favourite Brighton shirt of all time.
Another great question. I've got so many that I hold in high regard. I think my favourite has to be our 2002 to 2004 shirt. If you want to look that up, it's an absolute beaut. It's got the Skint sponsor across the front. It's in the most amazing font you'll ever see. It looks like an old school, like American jock sort of font. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got like little like detailings of seagulls all along the stripes. It's got a massive like crest of Brighton and Hove on the back. And the attention to detail from Araya, the kit supplier, was just absolutely unreal. And Nike will never ever get near to what Araya could do for our kits, because we had some absolute stormers. But yeah, that has to be my favourite. Another massive shout out to the one behind me. This one, that was our last ever shirt at the Golston Ground, was also the shirt that we wore in the year that I was born. So I absolutely adore that shirt, and I'm very lucky to own it.
Yeah, it's great when manufacturers can kind of come up with something a little bit different, isn't it? Move away from those kind of templates, and as you're saying with shirts, years where you were born or particular matches and so on, they do hold a lot of sentimental value. So yeah, hopefully that's something that we can continue with our guests over the next couple of episodes.
If you don't mind, if I could plug something that's coming very soon on Albion Obsessed. So me and my guy Tom, who's our host, we are massive football shirt collectors. Brighton, obviously, you can see my collection behind me there. We've just filmed a short fan documentary. It's called A Shirt Collector's Story. We sort of sat down and spoke about why football shirts mean so much to us. We went through our top 5 Brighton shirts, which is why I was quite quick with my answer, because we've already done that on our channel. So yeah, that's coming out on Friday the 19th, at 5 PM on Albion Obsessed. So if you're a football shirt collector or if you're a football shirt fan, go over to that and give it a watch. It's really good. We're so happy with it, because we've only got an iPhone to record on, but we use the cinematic function on it, and it looks like top level. We're so happy with how it's turned out, and yeah, look out for that one.
Outstanding. I'm sure if you put that up onto your Twitter, and we can obviously share that out across our socials, unless anyone else has got any kind of questions or anything like that for Joe. I know, is it Jimmy you've prepared? Oh, go on, you've got a question.
I want to take you all back, and Joe particularly will know this, I'm sure, all the way back to the 1910 Charity Shield. I'm sure you'll remember it well. Joe, I'm sure you'll know.
Like it was yesterday.
Joe, I'm sure you'll know who won the 1910 Charity Shield.
Of course.
Your only major honour to this
little
date.
Club along the south coast.
Indeed. Sussex by the Sea and all that. Not so much the fact that it's Brighton's only major honour. Well, sorry to rub it in. 9 league titles. But, we're still shit. But More that you...
FA Cup final loss.
Indeed. Well, we've all lost cup finals to United in the 80s, or even a football club if you haven't.
Yeah.
And remember, promotions don't count, do they?
In the playoffs.
They don't. The playoffs, yeah. No. Playoffs don't count. If you win the league, not a problem with that.
So Tranmere's back-to-back playoff wins. You've just written it off. We're not doing this again. We're not doing this again about you saying a playoff win's not a trophy.
Bollocks, Deck, and you know
win a
it.
Bollocks,
and
you win a trophy when you win the playoffs. It's a trophy. Anyway, besides the point.
Back to 1910,
where football was real. Not to quote Graham Souness, because that was bad. Anyway, so. I said, excuse me. Right, so. Anyway, interesting fact, it was the only time that a Southern League amateur team beat the Football League winners in a Charity Shield final. So as a team of amateurs, you turned up, beat Aston Villa in the Charity Shield 1-0, and therefore...
We're just that good.
Therefore crown yourselves the self-proclaimed champions of England, despite being a non-league team.
I can name the starting 11 if you want. No, I'm joking.
For a second there, you genuinely had me.
Jimmy was so
excited.
I
was actually genuinely quite excited. I mean,
he's
Dave,
genuine,
Alan,
genuine points. Genuine points.
Don't Joe, you get him going.
Genuine points. You can tell me who the goal scorer was that day. I don't know what points in what exactly, but probably not.
Tommy Cook.
Oh, you were so close. It was Charlie Webb. So also close. As well, to my knowledge, I think the only time a club has won the Charity Shield without winning the League or FA Cup in their history, which I think is, I'm sure will change soon. Leicester also had that honour briefly. But any other random Brighton facts anyone else got then? Don't see you guys doing random Brighton facts, do you? No, well, then you can shake your heads.
Let me try and pluck one from the air. Talk amongst yourselves and I'll try and think of one.
Well, we have got a quiz coming up shortly, whilst we briefly have an interlude before we wait more Brighton facts. Gents, have you got your knowledge caps on? Because we are going to have our...
Absolutely
I can't think of one, sorry guys.
It's okay, Joe. You've already told us plenty about Brighton, to be fair. I just came to my head that you won the Charity Shield some over 100 years ago, and I had to Wikipedia if it's me.
We have it proudly displayed at the Amex.
Quality.
In our tiny little trophy cabinet.
Hey, you've had a trophy recently?
More than Spurs.
Yeah, to be fair, more recent than Tottenham. More recent than Everton. More recent than Newcastle. They're the richest club in the world, so... Yeah. But we don't...
And they're not going to win the league.
Definitely not.
Year.
They're going out in the second round, absolutely.
Chance.
Not if Tranmere are going to say about it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Right then, boys. So, I hope your knowledge of the second tier is good. Right. No, basically, what we do is like a top 5, isn't it, Greg? Do you want to understand do you want to explain the concept of the point scoring for this? Because I think you can do this better than I can, but then I'll add my tweak to it. Go on.
Also, I already explained it to Joe on the Albion Obsession Twitter on an inbox.
Okay.
So it's basically...
But for the listeners who haven't heard...
I just explained that we'll have this. Oh, yeah, okay. So, it's called Fives, and, for instance, if I say, name the top 5 England goal scorers of all time, the most obscure of the 5, say it's Frank Lampard that's number 5, you'll get 5 points. If it's number 4, you'll get 4 points, 3, 3, 2, 2, and 1. So basically it's like sort of family fortunes or something. I don't know. I can't think of what it's like, but yeah, that's basically the more obscure
like
the correct
kind
answer,
of game
the more
show.
points
I
you get.
wouldn't say family fortunes, to be fair, but I kind of get what you're saying. Anyway, today we're going to do it slightly differently, and I'm going to keep going round until we can get all 5 answers. So you're not going to get one go and that's it, one and done. I want you to really think about this, because I'm going to be totting up the scores at the end, basically who gets how many and what have you. So essentially, the game is name the top 5 clubs that have played the most games in the second tier. Not just the Championship, not just the old First Division. Throughout from 1892 right up to modern day now. I don't know how up to date my scores are, but they're pretty accurate. Top 5 clubs that have played in the second division the most games. So, we'll go round, and if anyone's got an answer, then we can do that. So anyone willing to...
With your rules,
on, Joe?
If you get it incorrect, can you...
You can carry on, you can carry on, I'm not bothered.
If you get it incorrect, we're still going?
Yeah.
Okay, I think Joe's got one.
Yeah, go on, Joe.
Blackburn Rovers.
Is incorrect, they are 14th. Deck?
Huddersfield.
Oh,
Incorrect. The 26th.
Oh, they've won.
Well, you can have it.
That's all yours, that, Matt.
I'm going to say Hull.
So Hull will get you 5 points. They are 5th.
I finally got a question right on this quiz.
And I quote, I mean, this is at the time of recording, I don't know if Park, it says 2,584 second tier games.
Great.
Again, that probably isn't quite right. Go on, Deck.
Go on, Deck. Sorry, go on, Deck.
Oh, are we just throwing them in there?
I would, yeah.
Birmingham.
3 points for Deck. Birmingham are the third most with 2,400 and... Oh, that doesn't quite add up right. How does that work? Anyway, they've had more than Hull.
Norwich.
You'd think Norwich would be, but they're 24th.
Come on now.
I'm going to say Fulham.
7th. Go on, Greg.
Bastards.
I'm going to say Preston North. Preston North End?
Ooh, 12th.
Brighton and Hove Albion.
Brighton Hove Albion are...
Only because I want to find out where we are.
49th.
Oh, okay.
But it's tricky, isn't it? Because you think, big teams in the Premier League, but then you think, but they could have been in League 1 and League 2 as well. Who said Crystal Palace?
I might say Crystal Palace.
30th. They've had more second tier games than Brighton have.
This might be a strange one.
Go on.
Manchester City.
Not a bad effort. 46th.
Not bad.
Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, did I hear Sheffield Wednesday?
You did.
Oh, Deck, you're in luck. They came 21st.
Leicester City.
Second, 2 points go to Joe for Leicester.
I can go to sleep happy now.
I'm sure you can. So we've only got 1 and 4 left. Now, I'll give you a hint, boys. Neither of these last two clubs are actually in the Championship this season.
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth? I have no idea where they are. They are somewhere on this list. I've got a lot of. I've got 4 screenshots worth of things. Bournemouth are quite.
Well, put this way, they're not in the top 5.
They're not in the top bloody 5. They're barely in the top 50, I think. I don't know. Yeah, Bournemouth aren't they?
That was an awful
Cardiff.
shout.
Cardiff are 13th.
It's an improvement on 21st.
Indeed. To be fair, Dak, you have got 3 points. Tranmere?
No, we won't be up there.
No, Tranmere are not up there. 68th. It was nearly so nice.
Ipswich Town.
Ooh.
Ipswich.
25th.
They're not in the Championship.
This was only meant to be an hour.
I'm going to say, this is the hour-long bit.
Strap yourselves in.
Happy hour.
Feel the cheese.
We'll be here till we
proper
get
Championship.
There'll be people listening to this in the car just shouting clubs at the radio. And
boys, I'll make this easier for you.
I've got one.
Go on, Dak. I mean, Greg. I've lost track of who people are now.
Bolton Wanderers.
Bolton Wanderers. No. They're somewhere on this list.
Portsmouth.
Oh, Portsmouth. No. But I'll give you a bit of a clue, boys.
Southampton.
Sure. No, they're not there. Right. They're not in the Championship this season, but both of them were in the Championship last season.
Not
Forest are 4th.
Derby.
4 points. Derby are 6th.
Oh.
The hell got relegated to the Championship?
Who got promoted? Bournemouth.
Fulham.
Oh, no. Okay,
Nottingham Forest, so it's fine.
And who went down?
Derby definitely went down.
I know this isn't right, but Leeds United.
It's not Leeds. Leeds are 23rd, though. Southampton 27th, by the way.
Hell went down from the Championship?
I know at least one of you, probably 2, 3 of you, been to this ground. I haven't, but been passed on the train.
Is it Crewe?
It's not Crewe. You would not think this team had the most second-tier appearances. But by contrast, I think they've had one season in the top flight ever, so...
Wycombe
Not
Wanderers.
They only just made the second.
No.
Blackpool.
No.
Blackpool's
Begins
in
with
the
B, though.
Championship, I think.
Yeah, it's in the Championship, aren't they?
Burnley.
Doesn't really help me.
Barnsley. Well done, Joe. Barnsley have made the most appearances in the second division of any team.
Brilliant.
With, and
There
I
we
don't
go,
know,
we
how
can-
3,200
Put that to bed.
3,289 appearances in the second tier. Anyway.
I'm going away in a month. I could have been touch and go for a while then.
Well, you know. Shut up, I don't see you doing a quiz. Shut up.
That was a great question, Jim. That was better than any the ones I've put out there.
Such a Jim question.
Such a Jim question.
I was going to go.
Why don't we have Jim's question round
I
next
was
time?
going to go with the fourth tier, but I couldn't be bothered doing the research for that. That would have been bedlam.
Next episode is going to be. I'll do the one for the next episode, and it's going to be average price of meal deals at Browns. Most expensive.
MP Govern's the highest, clearly.
That's good.
Brighton will be top then.
We had Pie of the Year once.
Right, so Matt, you're criticising that quiz, but the scores are, Dak, sadly you got 0. A bit like your team at the moment, sadly.
Well, bit harsh.
Joe, you got 3 because you got Barnsley and Leicester, top 2. Dak, you got 7 because you got Birmingham and Forest.
Greg got 7.
No, Dak got 7.
Are you? It's like you're the dad and like you're the kids, and you just constantly get the names mixed up. It's fascinating.
And Matt, you got 5.
I'll
And you
take
can
5.
and you
I'll
can
happily
thank
take
Hull
5.
City for your 5. There you go.
Big up, Hull.
Yeah, nice one.
To hold them
Indeed.
back.
Well, that's definitely where this quiz has gone. So
Terrible, Greg.
it's one hull of an achievement to get this far in the podcast, boys, without anyone really losing their minds.
No.
And on that bombshell,
It's going so well.
it wasn't. On that bombshell, boys, I really want to thank Joe from Albion Obsessed for joining us this evening. Thank you for taking a bit longer than you planned to take out, because that quiz did go on a bit longer than I thought. Apologies. It's been fascinating listening.
No, honestly, it's been so much fun. Yeah, no, it's been great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Amazing. Well, if you ever want to come back on, I won't do the quiz next time, for starters. And we'd be absolutely made up to have you back on, share all your Brighton stuff, and hopefully, you'll be up the top end this year, just not beating Everton. But then, let's face it, you probably will.
I think we were the only team that you beat last season, weren't we?
I think
beat us 2-0
we
at
won,
the Amex.
we actually won away with Rafa at the Amex.
We beat Palace.
Yeah, and we won away at Leicester.
Yeah. Well, thank you for beating Palace, but no thank you for beating us.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really talk about last season. It wasn't very good. I mean, this season's not very good, and we're just not very good. But this podcast has been very good, and again, Joe, you have been amazing to listen to. I've learned a lot about Brighton, as have the rest of the boys. Lads, is there anything else you want to say before we go, or anything else you want to plug?
Just thanks, Joe, for coming on. We appreciate it. We do all this because we love football. It's great to see when people come on and they speak so passionately and are really intrigued. And yeah, it's been really good fun.
Yeah. So,
all right,
so
for having me
where
again.
can we find you on the socials,
Cheers,
Joe,
guys.
with Albion Obsessed?
Thanks for coming on, Joe.
So, nice and simple. So just Albion Obsessed across all socials. We've got TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. So if you want to learn more about Brighton, or if you want to come across and watch our football shirt content as well, do drop us a follow. It will be great to see you all over there.
Fantastic, of course. And of course, you can always get in touch with us with basically searching for on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, It's Only a Game. I can't remember the exact handle. I don't handle the socials. I do the silly bits. So, but I'm sure if you're listening to us by now, you'll know where to find us on social media. And if you don't find us on social media, then it's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Thank you all very much, gents. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you all next time.
We'll find you.
Dak, that was ominous and creepy. Please don't
Sounded
don't
good.
threaten the listeners with that, Dak. Don't do that.
Sound like Liam Neeson or something. I don't know. That's Liam Neeson.
I don't
You
know.
I
found
don't know who
us,
you are,
so-
but I'm going to find you, and I will tell you.
Christ.
That's
Impressions
Steve
were your
McDonald.
strong point, were they? The hell was that?
So, yes, that was, yeah.
The hell was that?
Well, I don't see you.
That's
I
staying
don't
in.
see you doing impressions to liven up the pod. So shut up. Right. Anyway, if you've made it this far, I'm sorry. But also, thank you very much for listening. We do ramble towards the end. It does get a bit chaotic. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Sports Social Podcast Network.